A few days ago, I came across a question on Instagram. It wasn't about money, it wasn't about success, it wasn't even about happiness. It simply asked, what's something you have today that your 20-year-old self would be unbelievably happy about? I smiled, because I thought I already knew the answers. A bigger house, a better career, more money, maybe early retirement, and yes, some people wrote exactly that. But those weren't the comments everyone was talking about. Then I saw one that made me stop scrolling. It simply said, good knees. Just 2 words. No explanation. I stared at it for a few seconds, and somehow, it made perfect sense. Because when you're 20, you never wake up thinking, I'm so grateful my knees don't hurt today. You just get out of bed, you walk upstairs, you carry groceries, you run after your kids, you kneel down to fix something. Then you stand back up again without giving it a second thought. It doesn't feel special. It just feels normal. So I kept reading. Another person wrote, being able to sleep through the night. Another said, having dinner with my family every evening. Another simply wrote, I can still call my mom. What surprised me wasn't the answers. It was what was missing. Nobody wrote, my Rolex, my dream car, my luxury vacation, my perfect house. Instead, thousands of strangers were quietly talking about things they almost never think about until someone asks. Then I found another comment. It wasn't funny, it wasn't dramatic, but I haven't stopped thinking about it since. It said, the strange thing is, 10 years ago I prayed for the life I'm complaining about today. I read it again. Then I realized I've done the same thing. Maybe you have too. We spend years trying to build a better life. And there's nothing wrong with that. We should dream. We should grow. We should keep moving forward. But somewhere along the way, something quietly happens. The things we once called blessings slowly become background noise. The things we once celebrated become ordinary. Not because they changed, because we got used to them, and maybe that's one of the strangest things about being human. We spend so much time asking, what else do I need to be happy, that we rarely stop to ask, what do I already have, that I once wished for? Maybe happiness isn't waiting inside the next promotion, or the next house, or the next version of our lives. Maybe it has been quietly sitting inside this one all along. We were just too busy, looking somewhere else. And that thought stayed with me. Not because it sounded profound, but because it felt uncomfortably familiar. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that the comment wasn't really about knees. It was about something almost all of us do without realizing it. We postpone happiness. We tell ourselves, I'll finally relax when, I'll finally enjoy life after, I'll finally be happy once. The destination changes, but the sentence never does. Which made me wonder, what if Instagram had asked the opposite question? What do you still need before you'll finally be happy? I think I already know what the answers would look like. A bigger house, more money, more freedom, a better relationship, more time, a different job, a different city, maybe even a different life. Funny, isn't it? Ask people what they're missing, and the list never ends. But ask them what they already have, and suddenly they have to stop and think, because somewhere along the way we learn to measure life by what is absent instead of what is quietly present. A few months ago, I came across a comment from a man who had just paid off his mortgage. 30 years. The bank no longer owned his house. He did. Someone replied, that must be the happiest day of your life. He answered, honestly, no. He said the happiest memory happened decades earlier. His daughter was 6 years old. The house was almost empty. There was no expensive furniture, no perfect kitchen, no beautiful backyard. She ran from one room to another, laughing and pretending. The whole place was her castle. Then he wrote something that stayed with me. I thought I was working to buy a house. I didn't realize I was collecting moments. I read that sentence twice, and the strange part was, I don't think he was talking about himself. I think he was describing almost everyone who's ever believed that happiness lives somewhere in the future. Psychologists actually have a name for this. It's called the arrival fallacy. The belief that happiness lives just a little further ahead. When I get there, then. When I get there, then. When I get there. The destination keeps changing, not because life is unfair, but because the human mind is incredibly good at turning miracles into routines. There's another name for that too. Hedonic adaptation. It sounds like something from a textbook, but you've lived it hundreds of times. The phone you couldn't stop thinking about. The car you washed every weekend. The job you celebrated when you got the offer. One day, without anyone announcing it, they quietly became your normal life. Maybe that's why. One sentence on the internet hits so many people. 10 years ago, I prayed for the life I'm complaining about today. Read that slowly. Because somewhere, there's probably an earlier version of you looking at your life today, thinking, you made it. And somehow, you're too busy chasing the next chapter to notice you're standing inside one you once dreamed about. But here's the part that fascinates me the most. Almost nobody realizes this while it's happening. We only recognize an ordinary moment after life quietly turns it into a memory. And by then, the script has already changed. And maybe that's why I've started paying attention to moments that don't seem important at all. The ones we rush through, the ones we complain about, the ones we assume will always be there. One nurse who spent years working with terminally ill patients once said something that stays with you long after you hear it. The regrets she heard were almost never about success. Very few wished they had earned more money. Very few people wish they received a higher promotion. What they did wish for was painfully simple. More presence. More honesty. More time with the people they loved. And almost always, the same realization appeared too late, that they had been living on autopilot for years, while the moments that actually mattered quietly slipped away. It's almost unfair. We spend decades optimizing our lives for productivity, only to discover at the end that connection was the real currency all along. And by then, there is no way to trade back time. There's a Japanese expression, ichigo. Ichi, it means this moment exists only once. Even if tomorrow looks exactly the same, it isn't. The conversation will be different. Your children will be a day older, your parents will be a day older, you will be a day older. Life doesn't repeat itself, it only looks like it does. I once heard a doctor say, the most expensive bed in the world isn't in a luxury hotel, it's a hospital bed, because the people lying there usually aren't dreaming about becoming richer. They're dreaming about something astonishingly simple, walking, breathing without pain, going home, having an ordinary Tuesday again. And that's the part I can't stop thinking about. The life we're trying so hard to improve may already contain the moments our future selves will miss the most. Maybe we've misunderstood what a meaningful life looks like. We imagine it as a collection of extraordinary moments. The promotion, the new house, the dream vacation, the big celebration. But when people tell the stories they cherish most, they rarely begin with, that was the day everything changed. More often, they begin with, it was just a normal day. A conversation that lasted a little longer than usual, a drive home with the windows down, a family dinner where everyone talked at once, a walk you almost didn't take, a joke that nobody else would understand. At the time, none of it felt important. There was no music playing, no dramatic realization, no sign telling you, remember this moment. Life rarely works that way. It simply keeps moving, quietly turning ordinary moments into the memories that define us. And perhaps that's the greatest illusion of all. We spend years searching for a better life, while the best parts of life are often happening in moments too ordinary to notice. So perhaps the question isn't, what else do I need before I can be happy? Perhaps it's, what do I already have today that I've become so used to, I no longer see its value? Because somewhere, someone is wishing for good health. Someone is praying for peace. Someone is hoping for one more ordinary day with the people they love. And without even realizing it, parts of the life we're trying so hard to improve may already be the life someone else is praying for, because tomorrow, just like every day before it, will arrive without showing us the script. And that's life. Life, unscripted.